How true/false is this statement? You shouldn't have children unless you have the income for it. TFW, you need a license to make beer, but not to make a child. If you can't afford to raise a kid, just why? _BTW. This question is rather timely because our law school class is currently taking up criminal laws in relation to children. Abortion is illegal in our jurisdiction. There are no income-based laws restricting parents from having children, but we have criminalized the severe neglect and abandonment of children. https://lawful.net/statutes/presdex/pd 1974/pd_603_1974.html. In other words, you're free to have kids, but you better take good care of them or else. It is 100% true. Babies are expensive. Just to give birth in a hospital can cost more than $5,000. It would suck to have a kid and struggle to raise it if you don't have the income for it. Personal opinion. Could be wrong. I don't think sentences are evaluated in a true/false level. You should wear your orange socks today is neither true nor false. It's just a preference. I once heard if people would wait until they have enough money and time for children, we wouldn't be here. You will never have enough money or time to have children. I think this is true. The modern, first world, society just is. Only we think about prosperity of our children. If you look into animal world or third world, they have income. As long as you have food and fireplace to come, you are good. At least they will be humble. I would believe there is at least some truth in that statement. Children are very expensive and take a lot of work to care for. Totally agree. If you can't provide a quality living to your children or at least to yourself, then don't have children. It's not fair to the child who has no choice. You can't measure the value of a good parent on their income. If you can't afford the vet, you can't afford the pet. With how expensive the vet is, especially if you want to take care of the pet really well, most people couldn't afford a pet. I don't take my pets to the vet for everything I'd like to, but I can at least deal with emergencies and not leave them in dire straits. Although I probably won't be getting more pets until these ones pass, and I'll try to be in an even better position next time around. I sometimes feel guilty about it. It also upsets me when people don't ever take their pets to the vet. What I've noticed is a lot of really poor people are just used to a really low standard of living for themselves and those around them, and that extends to their pets. And rich people the opposite. People do what they can do. It sucks, but that's the truth. Only the rich shall breed. How many world changers/leaders came from poverty? True AF. People need to stop having fuck trophies they can't afford. Petition to change the word children to fuck trophies. Petition to not have those two words in the same sentence. Yes, you should not force a child into a life of malnutrition. If you really want children, you can always have one later when you are financially stable. And in the odd case you can't because you are dying, you should also not have children knowing that. The real question is in what a sufficient income is. And emotional resources are the more important question. There's a lot of truth in that statement. It's extremely, if not 100%, true. If you can't give a child food, water, some clothing, shelter, and hopefully a little bit more, don't bring it into the world or give it to someone else. Emo. First, that's treading into dangerous waters, essentially saying that those with less wealth shouldn't have children. Which is jokes, cause wealth does not equal good parenting. Second, this question puts the blame on individuals rather than who is really to blame, which is the society and government that do not adequately support families through social assistance. Same when people say adoption is a choice. The mother chose to give up their child. Then how come so few wealthy give up their children for adoption? It seems to be the poor who consistently make that choice. Don't have kids if you can't care or provide for them in every way, emotionally and mentally and decked. If just having them for SNAP or cash or child support will get a job, cause chances those kids won't even have a chance at a decent life. SMH worthless parents. True. 1. If you can't support yourself, How are you going to afford kids? 2. Even if you can barely afford kids, what type of life are you planning on giving them? Be lucky I even feed you. Seen enough children go through that. What about higher education? 3. Can you afford kids on your own? If you end up in a divorce, are you going to be a single parent with 3 children in a 1-bedroom apartment? Your kids can't ever have friends over. 4. If you are dependent on government programs to subsidize your ability to have kids, shame on you. Government programs in North America barely cover a child's meals for the month. In Canada I've seen probably around 300 to 700 depending on the parent's status. Not to be an asshole, but that's very little in the way of money. If you are depending on a few $100s to raise your child properly, then you probably aren't ready to have a child. 5. If you're so poor, and everything goes to raising your child, what is your retirement strategy? You going to expect your child to pay for you when you're 65 to 85? Just take your child's income when he's 35 to 55 when they need it for their own family. More true than false, but a much better statement is you shouldn't have kids unless you've seriously thought about the responsibilities involved with raising them and providing them with a good childhood, and are sure that not only are you capable of that, but that you also want to. It's a good theory, but it doesn't always work out that way. Having, or not having, children is not a choice for the millions of people with no access to birth control, or abortion. That just boils down to poor people shouldn't have sex. So, you think it's okay to be irresponsible because you can't afford the consequences of your actions? You think people being able to fuck is more important than children being fed, clothed, and given medical care? If you can't feed your baby, then don't have a baby, and don't think maybe, if you can't feed your baby, ham on, hee. I think there is some truth to this statement, but there are a lot of real-world factors, so the issue isn't clearly black and white. What do you say to someone who had the money for 1 kid and then ends up with twins? Or someone who has a child with special needs that requires more money than the average child? What about someone who had the income and then lost their job after they have children? From my experience, whether you have the income/house/car/savings, that shit doesn't matter because shit can hit the fan very quickly and ruin all of that. Examples? My sisters. Sister 1 had everything going for her and then had 1 kid at 20 and stopped until she got married because she was single. Cool, she did good. Sister 2 did everything right. Got married, went to school, financially stable, live in great neighborhood, popped out 3 kids. Then, divorce. Now, she's a single parent of 3 children with a dick of an ex and a truckload of debt that keeps her from buying a house. Sister 3 had kids early. Married. Kept having kids while having rocky relationship. Financially stable. Another kid. Not financially stable. Divorce. More kids. 4 kids in total now, and she lives in a shitty house and she can't work because of COVID and doesn't have enough money for daycare, so she has to stay home and survives off of her partner's income. Whether you plan for it or not, the kids are still a blessing. None of my sisters regret having their children, but having more children does indeed make it harder. Doesn't matter if your income is okay, because life has a weird way of dislodging things that seem safe. Sure, you can try doing everything right, but doing everything by the book isn't going to guarantee you a happy environment for your kids. Greater than now, she's a single parent of 3 children. No, she's a divorced parent of 3 children. True, but the ex being a dick could mean the ex is a deadbeat, so she might as well be a single mom. I think this is true. If you can't afford them, you are subjecting them to a hard, sad life growing up. It's very true, you can't bring a life to this world if you can't take care of it. It's a responsibility. Simple as that. A lot of people don't see it as a responsibility, they see it as simply a byproduct. In a perfect world maybe, but with the system we have that keeps people at their family's income level, you've just given reproduction rights to only people who were born into the right economic class. Additionally, statistically minorities are more likely to fall into the lower income bracket, and you've then inadvertently created a whites-only law. Personally, if I couldn't afford it I wouldn't though. Wouldn't say it's 100% true, but since I came from a family who struggled with money, I would 100% agree with it. Depends. You can't really ban people from actually having children, but we need sexual education to show people that not everyone should have children even if they want to. Even if they can afford it, not everyone is suited to be parents anyway. I would say it's not just the income, but time and desire. I know lots of people who have kids because that's what their religion tells them to do, but then they can't afford it or never spend time with it because they want to go hang out on the weekend or do other things without their kid, because their kid can't go to those things. Yay, the religion side of things, where women exist to make more of God's children, aka gotta pump those church memberships up. Oh great, another Reddit eugenics thread, give it a fucking rest. It's pretty true, unfortunately. It takes a lot of resources in America to provide a good environment for a child. The amount of time required is insane, and without help from a grandparent it's much more difficult. I'd say limit the children you have if you're very poor. The sad part is there's plenty of people with a lot of money who are shitty parents, and there's plenty of low-income parents who do a great job on a limited budget. I don't know how the hell my mother managed. Hell, I'm autistic and she managed to do a fantastic job. No amount of money is ever enough when it comes to raising kids. Most people have children in their 20s and 30s when they are just starting out and not making much money yet. Somehow billions of people still manage to raise families. Have children if it is your heart's desire, and the rest will fall into place. We raised 2 sons living paycheck to paycheck until they got through college. If we had waited until we had savings, a house, etc., we would have never had them. Don't have children if you are unsure, or on the fence, trying to hold a relationship together. Have them because you are passionate about raising children. To me, the commitment to sacrifice your own needs and desires to have children is much more important than how much money you have in the bank.